Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum, and Merry Christmas! For this particular video, I'll be playing up against Math is Might and showcasing the new Hound tech that was introduced in the new season. Now, in this particular game, Math is Might decides to go for a cost control opener with Hounds and Sabers, and he will be the one showcasing us that new chamber compression tech, which I think has become pretty popular. The tech increases the damage by 35% every second the Hound doesn't fire. So with just the base Hound, 2.4 seconds means that you will just be getting a 70% bonus, which is relatively big in terms of, bonus attack. It also allows you to one-shot crawlers at equal level, which can sometimes be a little bit tricky for Hounds to achieve. So late game, especially, it seems to be a very powerful tech. Hounds have become more and more popular, I think, in the meta. I've seen them a lot, I've used them a lot, and they're one of the very few, ultra-capable chaff clear units in the late game, and very, very annoying to kill as well. There's not that many units that can, safely get rid of it, apart from maybe something like a Vulcan, but Vulcan is slow and somewhat tough to get into. Now, left side attack here from Math is Might. I was somewhat considering it because this building layout doesn't really favor aggressive gameplay. So I was a bit, surprised to see this. And Math is Might takes a bit of a gamble here, pushing the left side, hoping that I would stack the right. I do slightly do this. I probably should have just kind of read that he would try and go for a Hail Mary on round 1 and push into the wall plus Chungus. But I just didn't quite dare. It would have certainly been better for me if I did, but, I didn't know for sure that he was going to go for something like this. So, the round 1 play just doesn't really work out for us. I did put the steel balls in the middle so they could pivot, wherever my opponent was going to be, but they don't manage to get through the Hounds, and so both of the Sabers will still be alive. They'll get a debuff. I'll get a debuff with my singular steel ball, but that won't be enough to take down either of these units from Math is Might. So round 1 here, not really going in my favor, and I do end up losing it. I am a marksman specialist though, so I will get access to that marksman on round number 2, and that will help me tremendously in terms of, fixing my DPS situation on the left. Round number 2, we have a bunch of unit reinforcements. Fang, Wasp, Phoenix all look good. Even marksman here, very, very pickable. Normally, I would try and pick the Wasp, but I felt like I needed the deployments to try and salvage and really reinforce that left side, so I decided to go for the double Fang instead. One in front of my Arclight to save it, maybe even save my anti-armor cannon, which can be very useful if it locks onto a Saber, and then one Fang on the flank to try and deal with any Wasp shenanigans. The Fangs also tend to cover against the Wasp if my opponent were to go for that. He doesn't, but it felt like an overall solid play. I have my marksman against the Phoenix, which is what Math is Might did end up picking, and I decided to just bolster the left side with double crawler, one behind tower, one in front of the ball, hopefully allowing it to maybe lock onto a Saber, and then an Arclight here on the left side of the tower to try and catch this crawler and Hound pack. That was the idea. Opponent immediately goes for range Hounds, but that has the effect of now letting my anti-armor cannon lock onto his Sabertooth. And with a full magazine going into the Saber, it is going to be able to take it out. So, bearing it getting taken out, which it doesn't, it manages to fully take out one Sabertooth for me, which I'm very, very happy with. Now all we need to do is get rid of the other Saber, get through those Hounds, and then the victory should be ours. Marksman, very nice to have here. If I didn't have it, I would have been maybe in some trouble in terms of anti-air. But thanks to the marksman, we can take out all of the units and we immediately stabilize the defense. Good thing here, happy about the decisions we made, looking pretty good. My steel balls aren't the most useful, but a heavy armor shows up on round number 3, and I felt like that could be a good pickup. It does create a breakpoint against level 1 Sabers, where they are no longer able to one-shot the steel ball, and I felt like that was just the right thing to pick up. Opponent also goes for it, sensible item 4. A Sabertooth, and here comes the chamber compression. So, I've talked about this before, but Hound is a pretty tech-heavy unit, and if you have the money, if you have the hit points, it can be very good to just heavily invest into them early game. Try and get those levels, really establish your chaff clearing, and then build around that later on, or, wait for the first or even the second unit drop to give you something tanky to pair with it. And chamber compression also helps a lot with DPS, don't get me wrong. Hounds are extremely annoying to kill with Arclights that are same level. It really takes quite a while. And with chamber compression, the Hounds can fight back and kill the Arclights pretty easily. So, yeah, strong board here with very heavy investment into the Hounds thanks to cost control early on. I decided to sell a ball and go for a few more crawlers here. I also grab more Arclights to cover the flank and, you know, also grab the range to make sure that I can contest the Hounds that had range last round. Our anti-armor cannon again is going to lock onto that saber. It would be nice if it could just take out a saber for free once more. We'll have to see if it'll be able to, as it does get locked onto, but there it goes. One saber off the board. The tanky one, though, still alive, but my marksman manages to find the mark, and it will take it out. Do we have enough Arclights left? Some of them stuck on the Hounds. You can see that it's taken an awful long time, and the splash is, you know, not that consistent into Hounds, so it takes a while to get through the pack. Here we go again. Only splashing 2 at a time, but there's 5 in the one pack of Hounds, and thankfully the marksman is able to tank a shot from the Phoenix, and we will get out ahead, but only marginally. No massive levels on my Arclight. I get 1, but I would have liked to get a few more, because those levels really do help a lot against the enemy Hounds, and they also will help down the line, because I am expecting something like Subterranean Blitz to eventually get picked up, which can become a problem for Arclights. Intensive training here picked up from Mathis Might. And I was thinking, should I just go for improved firepower control system here and buy myself a Raiden? Raiden, decent into Hound, good into Phoenix, and with improved firepower control system, probably able to deal with these sabers as well. Normally it might struggle, but improved firepower kind of allows it to deal with some tankier units that it normally wouldn't be able to deal with. And it just felt like a good thing to go for here. If I can pressure him with his lack of anti-air and really bully that one Phoenix, then I think it's something I should do. I don't want to let him scale. I want to, you know, stay on top of things here and, yeah, just prevent him from scaling generally, because I think Hounds do scale better than these Arclights. In fact, I know they do. So if I can prevent it, I would like this, you know, not to go to round 9 or 10. We do get a very sneaky flank here, Sledgehammer and Crawler. Very, very common thing. And you can see how heavy the pull is. Both of my Arclights, some chaff also getting pulled over there. My newly bought Raiden gets pulled as well. And then with that beacon, the tower is fully exposed. Now, there's no real way for you to fix this, apart from grabbing a beacon and beaconing some of your units forward. It is just a very, very powerful sledge flank. And it is something that you will see a lot in High Mamar. It works especially well when you're playing mid-range, because that way, you know, your units are further away from the opponents, and so you can sometimes even pull more units away from the tower and really expose it. Now, the Raiden, though, it does have a bit of a tendency to scam. And yeah, there we go. That one Phoenix that I was trying to punish, the lack of anti-air, actually goes down. And that means no anti-air is left. So all of these poor Hounds sitting there charging up, their next attack will never get to fire. And you can see it is getting kind of out of control here. 3,000, 4,000 damage on level 1 Hounds. It is really, really nasty. But yeah, they're not going to get to do anything with that. Now we will have to wait for my Raiden to clean everything up, which is going to take a while, but it will eventually get there. And honestly, the scam was pretty good for me here, because I managed to level up my Raiden immediately, which I was quite happy about. We don't quite kill that last Hound, but we cleared up the board significantly, and that's not too bad of a result, considering the flank there, and yeah, the tower debuff we had to deal with. Round number 5, Orbital Bombardment shows up. I decided to pick it. I felt like, as the defender here, I should kind of turn up the pressure even more, and yeah, pick up that Orbital. I also have oil still to my disposal, and I will make use of it here to try and stop that push, because this diagonal is kind of the only diagonal right now that is really under pressure with that established flank. And so that is what I want to slow down. Now, of course, I have to be a bit careful about the right side. There is somewhat of a base for an army to show up at some point. But yeah, I felt like I couldn't really do too much about that right now. I wanted to make sure that the left side was covered. So I'm going to beacon my Raiden and Arclight forward there, and leave this Arclight to deal with the crawlers. I should put something in front of it, so I will just go for a Rhino. I sold my Steel Ball, retrieve the heavy armor, which is going to find its way onto that rhino, and I'm just going to leave that flank be. The arclight and the rhino should be able to easily dispatch of it, and if I beacon the rest forward, I should be okay. Now, my opponent immediately respects the Raiden leveling up and goes for level 1 Farseers with AA. It's a pretty early commit, but I guess he does need to get something pretty serious. Doesn't want to go for the Phoenixes, which I can understand. They were only level 1, so he sells those. Goes for a barrier to try and protect against the potential orbital, but I put it more in the middle, where it should be able to at least get some value. Goes for the same beacon yet again. Now the Raiden this time around does get beacon forward, together with that Arclight, which is going to help it out. And my opponent, by the way, picked up Subsidized Crawler, and you can already see there, level 2 Crawlers, they don't get one-shot by level 1 Arclights. So this is something that will potentially become a problem later on, because I have to get through the Crawlers, and then I have to get through the Hounds as well, as my Raiden bites the dust. And here I was thinking, do I want to commit into Raiden even deeper? I could. I have the level to justify it, and I think Farseer isn't, like, the best into Raiden. But I could also say, well, I could just not play an air unit and go for something else. I had to unlock the Raiden, which was relatively expensive, but I get a unit drop now. And I didn't tech my Raiden, so why not just try and go for something different? And so I decided to pick up the Scorpion drop here, because I felt like it was alright DPS, it's pretty good into Hound as well, and if I build a whole lot of them, then I might just be able to use that as my main source of DPS. So that's what I go for. We sell the Raiden, we retrieve that improved firepower control system, which I'm going to put it on the Scorpion that's in front of this tower, and then I want to buy a whole bunch more Scorpions to really go wide. My opponent goes for the Typhoon, and sells the Sabertooth that had the heavy armor, goes for a right side play. After all, I do hedge against this a little bit. This tower is leveled, and I do put a Scorpion kind of in the middle, a bit towards the right. But I'm not sure if this is going to be able to deal with that Typhoon. Now, I was thinking of putting another Scorpion on the right side, but I end up doing something a little bit different with that final deployment. And so, yeah, that will not come to fruition. We do range our Scorpions, and I'm not too sure what I wanted to do. Oh, I went for Mustang. Now, the reason I go for a one lone Mustang here is because I expected him to, once he sees the Scorpion, commit to something like Abyss. And I was a bit afraid that he would try and punish me here by going for something like Wasp, because I have no Wasp. And then next round, if I have to deal with an Abyss and I have to deal with Wasp, you know, I would have to buy Mustang and then be a turn behind and deal with the Abyss the turn after. So I wanted to try and at least establish some form of anti-Wasp, and then prepare next round to buy a melting point, because I really thought he would go for the Abyss, because Abyss is just very good into, you know, stationary fangs, a whole bunch of Scorpions, and just generally Scorpion Mustang. Sadly, the Scorpion here is very sad. The Subterranean Blitz does get picked up as we expected, and you can already see that it's starting to create some trouble for our Arclights and the rest of our board. Right side tower will go down even though fortified, and that's 7 seconds of debuff, and the Scorpion is just wildly looking around left and right. Not sure what to do. Right side tower will fall as well, and that'll be all she wrote on this particular round. Now, we were pretty healthy, and we established a decent lead, but suddenly things are looking a bit dicey. I have to respond to that Typhoon. I'm afraid of the Abyss, and we'll have to see, you know, what Math decides to go for. Punches us down to 2.6, and now we're basically even, heading into the last round of the mid-game. Round number 7, Heavy Armor shows up again. Pretty easy pickup, I would say. And he does go for that. Absorption Module, another option, but I don't think it's that good into these level 1 Scorpions. And opponent now has 2 heavy armors to his disposal. Sells out of the Typhoon. I did kind of expect this, but I still have to respect it. So he put a Scorpion over there, and now I really thought something big would show up. Something so big, or something aerial-based, that my Scorpions wouldn't be able to deal with. So I decided to go for a melting point. It's a bit of a wild guess, but I just felt like, you know, he has to go for something big, and melting point is good against big mechs. I wasn't expecting him to go Fortress, which is a very classic combination with Hound. It used to be the most popular comp for a while when Hounds were extremely meta. Seems like that might be making a comeback now on the new season, and he has played it into me a bunch of times. But yeah, goes for the Fortress here anyway. And you can see me going for the melting point there. as, yeah, I do buy it. Now, I thought he would put the Abyss on the right side and try to pressure from there, but I guess wrong, and instead he goes for Fortress on the left and the middle. Still, Melting Point is gonna be a good unlock, and the mandatory one against Fortress. I don't think I can get through this with Scorpions. Level 2 Fortresses, especially with Barrier, you're just not going to win that with level 1 Scorpions, even with Double Shot or Acid. It just doesn't tend to work that well. So, happy I do have that Melting Point. I did loan to get the temp range and also get range on my Melting Point. Opponent doesn't loan here, so we'll have a little bit of an economic advantage. And how are we doing here? Right side managing to stall. Doesn't get debuffed, crucially, so the left side is able to move in. And things are looking pretty decent. Now that Fortress, of course, is very menacing, and it will just one-shot my Scorpions, my Arclights. This Melting Point is trying to do its very best. But, okay, it will manage to survive. Very happy about that. Left side may even be able to just take down that level 2 Fortress by itself, as we still have some late chaff arriving. And we managed to do a little bit more chip damage there to Mathis Might, sending him down to about 1,500 hit points remaining. So now I need to buy more Melting Points. Orbital Javelin shows up. I was pretty afraid of this spell because, well, there's a bunch of things my opponents can hit. Just try and hit an Arclight, a Marksman, and a Scorpion. You know, open up that tower, get a debuff. But he decides to skip and goes for Advanced Power System instead. Now, don't get me wrong, very powerful spell, but yeah, I thought I would get Javelined. So my Melting Points and my Melting Point placement will be kind of away from where I think he would Jav to try and preserve my new Melting Points. Instead, I go for the Acid because I wasn't sure if he was going to be shielding here. And either way, some of the Acid will be on my own side of the board, and it should help a lot with basically everything. Now, Mathis Might does run Sprinkler or Fire Extinguisher on his Hounds, but I wasn't convinced he wanted to pick that. And either way, I should get the Acid for one round. More Fortresses picked up. Second tech on the Fortresses picked up with the Overload. Very classic carry Fortress bar there for Mathis Might. Works exceptionally well on aggro. We have a Crawler on the shallow flank to protect this new corner Fortress, which is going to be pushing in from the diagonal. And at this point, maybe I should try and consider something like leveling that tower. But, you know, I have other money to spend, and going for double Melting Point, getting a loan, getting temp range, getting EMP as well to try and turn off the Fortress techs or deal with the barrier that I was also expecting is more of a priority to me. Left side still getting dealt with. I'm pretty happy to just leave him, or leave these units kind of get pulled, because I didn't think he would be able to get in that quick. And, well, let's see how we do here. Scorpion's trying to do their very best, but oh, look at those Crawlers. Just getting in so exceptionally quickly. The tower completely open. I will lose it. I mean, even if it was level 2 here, it would have gone down instantly, so I would have to put it at like level 3 or 4 for that to matter at all. And either way, I don't think we're going to be chaff clearing that. So this round is an absolute disaster. We get overwhelmed from every single side, and we're going to be taking a ton of damage. It might even be lethal. I don't think it's quite lethal, but very, very close. 172 hit points remaining. Now, thankfully, we do get the oil back this round. I'm not going to ignite it because I expect my opponent to maybe try and Sprinkler, especially with that Vulcan's Descent available. Now, I am going to pick up the Vulcan's Descent, but I'm simply going to be using it on the back of his board because I want to try and clear some of the late Crawlers, and I want to try and pressure one of his towers. Mathis Might, though, respectful of the possibility, levels both of his towers, goes for the Vulcan himself, wants to try and set my oil on fire so he can then clean it up and not get slowed. We'll have to see if that works out. Does go for Sprinkler here to also clean up the Acid, of course, and I go for the oil in that corner. Vulcan not quite falling on top of it, so I might be fine there, and of course he also needs some of my units to be inside of that. I decided to shield my Fangs because I noticed that my opponent didn't have Mechanical Rage clicked yet, and Hounds are not the best at dealing with Shielded Fang if you don't have Mech Rage, you know, teched. So I'm trying to stall even more here. Melting Point in front of the tower. I sold my Scorpion that was there because it's just not going to do that much into these high-level fortresses. And, I mean, let's see, like, what can we do here? Second attack also picked up, just trying to clear the Hounds a bit quickly. Will it be enough? I can't afford to lose a single round here, but hopefully, the shielded fangs will be able to get the job done. We did clump them a lot just to try and make sure that nothing gets in. We have the oil to slow down. We might have a little bit of acid even. And yeah, I mean, that Vulcan just instantly dies as it lands in the acid before the hounds can clear any of it. My Vulcan does spawn in the back, clears a couple crawlers, but it's going to be stuck on that tower for a while. Now, things are looking a little bit better this time around. We are slowing the opponent, and I'm managing to lock on to the enemy units. I do get debuffed though, which is not ideal. Once again, I should probably level my tower here, but it's hard to find the resources for that when I've got other things in mind. And ideally, I don't lose my tower at all, because that would mean that the opponent went through all of my units. Right side tower here, trying to hold on. I get a really good debuff timer, and with the EMP, I managed to get rid of that fortress. My tower does go down with my level 2 melting point, too tanky with that heavy armor. My Vulcan clutch takes out the Farseer, and I managed to survive for round number 10. And round number 10, we get unit reinforcements. Now here, there were a couple options. I could just take the cell. I could go for Void Eyes, which is what I did, because I am running EMP armor currently. And I thought, ooh, maybe turning off those fortresses and turning off the Hound techs could give me a little bit of an edge. So that's what I went for. War Factory here is another option. Opponent goes for the Vulcan, and we'll try and set this on fire by force to try and really get through and again stop himself from being slowed. Orbital is back off cooldown though, so that might help me try and get through the chaff a little bit better, because these level 3 crawlers, keep in mind subsidized crawler was picked up, so all of the crawler levels are free, are very annoying to kill. My arc lights can't even really deal with them, I believe, at equal level, which is quite something. More and more fortresses picked up, intensive training used on them as well, and barrier now as a third tech, so very, very scary stuff. Mathis might very briefly considering attacking that right side. Now, I did have, you know, an option to take the factory and maybe push the right side, but I was afraid that he would do something like this, because it's just a pretty logical thing to do. You know, try and dodge the oil or dodge the orbital. He goes back on it though, and ends up stacking all of his units on that left side. So this would have been open for a potential cheese, but it's a bit of a gamble, and I felt like, you know, just solidifying my board in general would have been a better play. So that's what we go for, and let's see, does it actually work? Opponent does have the Vulcan now, sets that on fire immediately. Can my melting point get rid of anything here? All of the crawlers streaming through, barely taking any damage from that fire. Melting point very exposed, will eventually get taken out. The fortress is getting EMP'd somewhat by the Void Eyes, but eventually I run out of Void Eyes. And whilst that Vulcan does get damaged, it doesn't go down. And now the problem is, it takes down all of my fangs. I had like 2 or 3 packs of fangs there, all clumped together, which were really causing a lot of trouble for the opponent, fortresses and Farseers. But the Vulcan somehow strafes into my backline, gets rid of it, and this is just not going to be enough here. My melting point trying to do its very best, taking out a Hound, taking out a Farseer, but eventually dies, and we sadly lose the game. Hound Fortress properly back on the menu, I would say. I faced this more than once. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose, but it's very oppressive to deal with. And yeah, Subterranean Crawler still an absolute powerhouse of a tech, and crucial for aggro strats to just really bully the opponent's shaft here. There's not much you can do against it. You kind of want to just tempo it out. Try and use oil. Maybe try and use fire when you can. High-level arc lights can eventually get there, but, you know, in terms of stalling power, it is a bit tough. Now, what should I have done? There was an alternative play available, which we can see if it would have worked, which is to push the right side. It was open. Now, it is a gamble. It is just a gamble, right? We saw Mathis might set up on that side. If I try and go for this play, and, you know, he's set up there with a level 3 fortress, and it wouldn't work. But we can try and just move in like so. Now, what I can do is maybe grab the factory like this, because the way that the beacon works is that if there's anything inside of it, and that counts for both parts, then the unit will stop, at least if it's also in range of the unit. But if it's in range of the unit, but not inside of the beacon path, the unit will keep moving forward. So you can use this on things like factories, which are very large, to kind of try and, you know, dodge the enemy chaff, for instance. I'm going to go for double crawler maybe here on the flank to really make sure that all of that stuff stays there. And then temp range, temp speed, going to be important. I think range needs to be picked up as well. I could go for high explosive ammo if I want to, but not sure. Maybe level this tower a little bit. Leveling this could make sense. We do have orbital as well, so let's try and use that. And then what else? What else? I could try and sell something. I mean, the Scorpion likely isn't the most useful at this point. Could go for defense enhancement as well. Maybe another melting point here could help. Try and get rid of this. Buy another melting point right here. And then maybe level some arc lights. And then call that a day. Could also go for this missile. And, I mean, let's see. Does that factory get in? Can it get in? Doesn't have any chaff gear to help it out, which maybe is a problem, but it does have multiple cannons, and maybe that's enough here to get a lock on to the tower. That would be ideal. Come on, one more. Okay. There we go. Left side moving in. The factory does get that debuff, and now my melting points managed to lock on. Level 3 tower holding on during the debuff, and this actually looks like it would have been winning. So, yeah, grabbing that tower, going for a Hail Mary play, would have grabbed us a victory, but it's such a scary thing to go for, in my opinion. Very, very, yeah, just kind of a gamble is what it is. I would have won the game. I think Mathis might didn't have 1800 hit points to spare, but yeah, we saw him try to set up there, right? And I had a think, and I thought, if he goes for that, I just instantly lose. So I tried to win it, you know, the straightforward way by just meeting him head on, but that wasn't enough, and I should have gone for that, you know, side play there and taken the risky path for a victory. But that shows you what you can do. But man, very, very scary push. We can quickly go back and watch, and yeah, indeed, it would have been lethal. So that was an option. Anyway, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of Chamber Compression Hound. Have you been playing it yourself, facing it? Let me know your thoughts. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.